Kieron, welcome. Tell me, if you would, about the Impact Investing Institute. In fact, let's start. What's impact investing?
What is
and
impact
then tell me what you do.
Okay, will do. That's a good place to start. Well, it's great to be with you. So impact investing, I mean, at its simplest, it's about commercial investing that's good for people and the planet. So it's about investing in businesses and business opportunities that seek value out of environmental and social outcomes. So the Impact Investing Institute, what we are, we're a non-profit that was set up by the UK government, and we were set up with a mission to mobilise and accelerate the field of impact investing. What that really means is that we're trying to move capital markets. We're trying to move capital markets in a way that makes the world a fairer and greener place. And the way that we do that is we seek to mobilise capital. So we work with really big investors, asset managers and asset owners to help them embed impact into their investment approaches. And then we showcase the ways in which that impact, in which that capital can have an impact on the ground as well. So how do you connect that money to opportunities for impact?
How do you make sure that the money goes where it should be going and creating genuine impact?
Yeah, well, I mean, every investment has an impact. I think that's probably the kind of the first place to start. And broadly, there are two big trends going on in the world at the moment. So the first of those you might call the impact of investment, because we're just getting more and more aware of the ways in which the things that you do in the world have an impact. That can be a positive one. Frequently it's a negative one, particularly from an environmental or social perspective. And really big investors, so take pension funds for example, if you're a big enough investor or a long-term enough investor, starting to get very focused on those because those externalities don't feel quite so external. They're starting to impact upon the bottom line of your investments. So that's one trend. The other trend is the growth in what you might call purpose-focused businesses. So these are businesses set up where the value comes from the social or environmental impact that they're having, either in the goods that they're selling or in their attraction to great staff. And so with those two trends happening, there's more and more money flowing into impact. How do you ensure it actually equals impact on the ground? Well, that becomes one of the core tenets of impact investing, is that you have a theory of change. You think, you describe the sort of positive change you would like to see in the world, who it's for, what it looks like, then you measure it, you see whether it's happening, and most importantly, you start to manage around it as well. So if you see that impact occurring, fantastic. If you don't, then you should change something about your investment approach.
How can you create more opportunities for impact investing, do you think?
Well, at some level, this is all quite structural. It's happening around us, and the market's growing very rapidly. So just a few years ago, we were talking about a very small market in the billions, and it's now in the trillions. So it's growing. How do we accelerate it, I think, is the question that we focus on. And four Ps I'd give. So that's policy, that's practice, that's partnerships, and people. So on policy, there's lots that governments can do to accelerate this field, and it's in government's interest too, because ultimately it's about achieving public goals. And so that can be about incentives. So if you look in the US at the Inflation Reduction Act, or in the EU at the EU Green Deal, these are giving incentives to investors to come into this space. But you can also look at the space of regulation, for example. So in the UK, we've worked with the regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, to set up the world's first regulated label around impact, so people know that when they're investing in that, it's something that is actually going to have impact. So that's the policy side. On practice, there's a lot needed just to really showcase what can be done. That's something that we do at the Institute, is actually try and showcase examples so people can learn from each other around the world. Partnerships is something that I find really important. My own background after leaving the Boston Consulting Group was working in central government in the UK for a decade. And as I think about impact investing, really at core, it's about trying to pull together often the public sector, civic society, and investors too. And people is probably the most crucial bit of it, because you asked a question about how do you know whether impact's occurring? And the truest sense of that is ask people. Is something changing in their lives? And increasingly, that's where impact investing is going. It's using different tools and approaches to get to the end people who impact investing claims to be for, to find out what's changing and is it for the better.
In terms of investment returns, look, it's investing, it's not charity.
No.
So where's the broader case there? Is there one?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say that for impact investing to scale, it has to have commercial returns. Because you think about the mandates of some of the world's biggest investors, be they insurance or pension funds or sovereign wealth, they have mandates that say they need to get a certain level of financial return. So how do you optimize for the impact within that? But there is a space for impact investments to go further than that, and that's often, for example, by involving social investing or catalytic investments from governments, and that sort of kind of blended finance can help impact investing reach further than it might otherwise. So, give a very practical example of that. There's a venture fund, Kawasaki Venture Fund. They're based out of Nairobi. It's a $70 million fund, and they're tackling climate change through tackling energy poverty. So investing in off-grid clean energy solutions. They've had investments from public bodies, but also from pension funds as well. And that's created a blended instrument that allows their money to go further and invest in more ventures. They're now reaching 10 million people across East Africa. So it definitely has to be commercial, but this is where the partnerships between government and philanthropies can really come into play.
Kieron, thank you so much.
Thank you.